Thanks for joining us. I'm Colby Thielen. Last year, News 9 traveled with members of the Oklahoma City Zoo, some of its volunteers, and some everyday Oklahomans on a trip to Tanzania and Rwanda. The goal was to learn about the zoo's global conservation partnerships and about the wildlife those partnerships are meant to protect. You're about to see that wildlife up close and meet some of the people whose lives depend on it. Come along with us on a journey to Africa, on a trip among the wild.
It's just a great feeling. You put everything behind you, and when you get off that plane and you realize you're back in Africa.
I always say when I get to Africa, I feel like my feet never hit the ground. It's just so inspiring to me.
I feel so much connected with Africa. It's like coming home.
Tanzania, a country home to more than 55 million people, and the wild that walk among them.
It is a truly wild place. I think we often take that for granted.
Erica Buckwalter does not take it for granted. As manager of educational programs at the Oklahoma City Zoo, she takes in every moment, studying each animal.
The biodiversity around here, it's just so different than anything that you've seen before.
It may be the reason Jennifer Parker returned to the continent 13 times.
And when you're in Africa, that's one of the closest experiences to nature that you can have, and most unique experiences.
Experiences sought by millions of travelers. And some find Edie Athaman is the one to show them.
So I have friends, I can say, almost all over the world.
Edie started as a guide at 25.
When I'm driving, always I keep looking right and left.
What's that?
That is an impala. You need to be good on predicting and having feelings of something. So not only about explaining things, but also you need to have feelings.
You still get the same feeling you did when you first came on a game drive?
Yeah, I can say even sometimes my hair it's like vibrating. So I have deep feelings when I see these animals.
Animals Edie sees from his front row seat every day. Some people cross the globe just to get a glimpse. The biggest draw, the Big Five. Of the top animals to spot, one of them is hard to miss, especially at Tarangire National Park.
Tarangire National Park has got the total area of 2,800 kilometers square. In this area, it's where you can see many elephants.
African elephants like these are endangered, but the most live right here in Tanzania. Here at Tarangire National Park, they're protected.
Elephants aren't the only herbivores on the list. There's also the African buffalo, notoriously aggressive and seemingly always angry. But aggressive and angry is still better than aggressive and strategic. During the wet season, this entire area is covered with water, which makes it great for elephants and buffaloes other times of year because of the grass that grows underneath. Some of the trees also make great hiding spots for leopards, if you can spot them.
Yeah, leopard is my favorite animal.
Elusive and dangerous, a leopard is strong enough to pull its prey to the top of the baobab tree.
It is a successful hunter. 75% of their hunting, they are successful.
Why so?
I think first because they are solitary animals. So if you miss, it's your fault.
These single moms rarely do, and when mom hunts, this little one will have to hide. Until then, it's time to play, even in the rain. The leopard is not the only predator in the Big Five. The other, equally dangerous. But
these are lazy animals.
For the lions, I think being social animals, it makes them to be lazy sometimes. Because they know if I won't kill, another one from the pride can kill and I will eat. Yeah.
the males are usually on the receiving end of that deal, leaving most of the hunting to females. Something the zoo's director of conservation and science never saw up close during 4 previous safaris.
I mean, absolutely amazing. We're so lucky.
Never seen anything like this?
Never seen anything this close. No, it's amazing.
Rebecca Snyder did this day, 5 yards from the truck.
And just to see how strong she is, right? Like how powerful they are.
I felt confident that we would see lions on this trip, but I didn't think we would see one that close up right after it had killed a wildebeest.
The collar was likely placed on her by researchers following one of the pride's best hunters. But this kill, she wouldn't share with the pride. We soon found out why. A half-mile away, her babies wait, not yet old enough to meet the others. So for now, the shade of the brush and the tall grass make a great place to hide.
So it was really neat because I was actually the person to spot the lion with the kill. So we were able to back up and then watch from start to until she was interrupted. It was really neat. And she looks so healthy, which is a good sign for the park. You can always hope, but nature always surprises.
The last of the Big Five is too big to hide, but hard to find nonetheless. Even at Tarangire National Park.
We don't have rhinoceros here. They used to be here, but because of the poachers killed them, so now are not existing.
Even at Lake Manyara National Park. Lake Manyara here in Tanzania is actually the natural habitat for the African black rhino, but due to poaching, you won't find any here today. It wasn't until we reached the Ngorongoro crater, 10 days in 4 parks. This is the closest we got. A rhino's horn is made of keratin, which is the same as our nails and our hair, but it's also the reason the black rhino is critically endangered. The horn will fetch a high price on the black market. The rhino pays with its life. Our distance brings the problem into focus.
That highlights kind of how precarious it is.
Zoo president and CEO Dwight Lawson says it's not just the rhino, but all the animals and the places where they're protected.
I tell you, the more times you come out and see this, the more kind of perilous a lot of it appears. I do worry that they're becoming fewer, but as they become fewer, they become more and more important to folks.
So how do we preserve these special places and protect the wild that inhabit them? Tanzania is one of the countries that may have found a model. What can you do to help this wildlife at the Oklahoma City Zoo? We'll show you right after the break. Wildlife in Tanzania is among the most precious of resources. It's why nearly 40% of the land is protected.
The people in Tanzania, they've got it right. They know exactly that they walk alongside lions. They walk alongside elephants.
And they have their own way of welcoming those who wish to join.
Jambo, jambo bwana, habari gani, nzuri sana, karibishwa Tanzania, hakuna matata.
Tanzania has done a wonderful job protecting a lot of their natural spaces and land, and they've got a great model to do that with all this ecotourism.
Tourists coming from around the world,
I mean, there's no other way to describe it.
People like Dick Bashir.
The animals you've only seen in books or online or just pictures of.
Dick served as the head of Zoo Friends for years and still regularly volunteers. On this trip, he saw those animals from books and pictures up close, even from the tented lodge outside Tarangire, where there are no fences.
And the sun's coming up, and you're hearing hyenas in the background, and you're seeing all sorts of zebra and wildebeest, and you walk out of your room, where you're staying, and basically you startle a herd of antelope on the way to the lodge.
It's one of many attractions. But perhaps the largest attraction, the country's largest park, the Serengeti. The word Serengeti comes from the Maasai. It means endless plains. And in some areas, it doesn't look so different than Oklahoma. Though there are a few important distinctions. Out here, you do not want to end up alone. Danger from above. Danger under the surface. But there is opportunity to see the Serengeti from campsites in the bush. Or from baskets in the sky. Baskets that hold as many as 16 people. And from hundreds of feet up, the endless plains live up to the name, even if its largest occupants seem less intimidating from here. At Lake Minyara, visitors can take in panoramic views by day, or search out those that stalk at night. In addition to a guide, those night drives require an armed ranger.
Can you see it, all of you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Spotted hyena.
That is the spotted hyena.
Yeah.
It's the largest of all hyenas, yeah? And normally hyenas, they are active during the night, yeah?
Night drives also require a spotter seated on the hood.
There's a lot of zebras and impala. Bushback is always solitary, yeah?
His light searching for its reflection in the eyes.
We have a lot of elephants because Manyara and the Tarangire National Park, they are very close.
The eyes of those both small
Oh, there is a...
White-tailed and large.
Oh, hippos!
Wow.
We see them, we don't go close to them.
But hippos have no problem getting close to one another, especially in the hippo pools. Here, the semi-aquatic creatures stay cool and hydrated. Though they lie close, they don't socially bond. And the pools can often be smelled before they're seen. Some tourists come for the beauty, others for nature's reality. Some tourists come just to see the most fascinating creatures on Earth. A select group of those creatures have the face only a mother could love.
The wildebeest is one of the ugly 5 animals. And hyena, marabou stork, warthog, vulture. These are the ugly 5 animals.
The warthog's features at least serve a purpose. Their snouts and tusks are useful for digging and fighting. Their tails stand up straight when they run, a signal to others that danger could be nearby. As for the hyena, it's not about the strength of features, but the strength of numbers. They are deadly with their clan. And out here, they outnumber lions 3-1. It's the reason lions and hyenas are bitter enemies. Though these spotted scavengers may not be aesthetically appealing, finding them is an appealing offer to travelers. But whatever the reason travelers come, for most, it's the trip of a lifetime. It was for Nancy Driver and Larry Hillman, who heard about the trip on social media.
I was ready to sign up. It took Larry a little while to think about it, but we did.
The thing I noticed is how much color there is in even the common birds, for what they are saying are common. More colorful than anything we have, except maybe the cardinal.
All these beautiful animals that are just here, we don't want them to go away forever.
Among the animals of the savannah, one stands above the rest, and you may find them among the acacia trees.
Giraffe is the only animal which can feed on acacias with the thorns.
The advantage? A thin muzzle, thick eyelashes, and, of course, a long tongue. It has one more advantage that seems to help.
Giraffe is avoiding competition with others grazers animals by eating higher leaves. So the only animal which is competing with a giraffe is only elephant.
But researchers now find the giraffe population is decreasing. Rebecca Snyder believes it's due to competition giraffes may not have expected.
That's because of human activity. So there's just a lot of us. We take up a lot of space and a lot of resources, and that doesn't leave very much space and resources for all the other living things on the planet.
The population is considered vulnerable, shrinking 30% since 1980. Animals like these, and many others, are the reason Tanzania took proactive steps. Steps Dwight Lawson hopes others will take.
This is one great model, but there needs to be a lot more. We're going to have to get beyond that model globally to make sure that these aren't just big outdoor zoos in the future.
In 2011, the Oklahoma City Zoo started a program called Roundup for Conservation. It's raised more than $1 million since. Last year, the money raised went to the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. It will go toward research and educating veterinarians in Uganda and Tanzania. Rounding up to the next dollar when you buy a ticket, a coffee, or something here in the gift shop. Thank you. That money goes further than you think. Ahead, we'll introduce you to the people whose lives depend on the wildlife, why they see their relationship as a partnership after the break. Living among the wild isn't just daily life in Tanzania. To so many people that we met, it's also a powerful responsibility. A responsibility they feel for the animals, for their families, and their communities. Call of the Wildebeest can be heard each summer across the Serengeti. The Great Migration, a draw to other travelers like Jennifer Parker.
Wanted to see the mass migration because I haven't seen that, and that's kind of one of the highlights of Africa. But this will be something like I've never seen before.
Wildebeest by the hundreds of thousands, and they're not alone. The wildebeest initiates the pilgrimage in search of water, but it's the zebra that leads. They have eyesight better equipped to spot predators. As safari guide Edie points out, they also have an impressive digestive system.
That's why all year round, they are fat. They don't suffer for food.
The food is also the reason they lead. Zebras eat the top of the grass, wildebeest the bottom. Rebecca Snyder says it's not a coincidence.
They live together, and there's a reason for that, right? They need each other, basically. They rely on each other. So you see the interconnectedness of all these different species.
Just as the people who share the land.
If you take the wildlife also will take care of your life.
Safari guide Harry would know. He's brought tourists to the parks for over 20 years. The pandemic showed him a glimpse of life without them.
What was that 2 years like?
2 years, it was terrible. It was terrible because, most of the guides, they put the bond as bond, the valuable things, and also some of them they sold the items to get food and to survive or take care of the kids, like school fees, something like that.
Survival for families and for communities.
So that's why we say it's very important to protect the wildlife. And also even the management of the park, it's always educating people the importance of protecting the resources we have. You see that schools? We did build with the money we got from people who are visiting the park. So if you protect these animals, means it's going to provide more things to you, like schools, hospitals, and even drilling wells to you. So this is encouraging people, and most people now are understanding the importance of protecting the wildlife.
From local towns to tribal villages like the Maasai. They welcome guests with traditional song and dance, wrapping them in African blankets and handing the men a rungu, the emblem of a Maasai warrior. The Maasai migrated to Tanzania in the 16th century. For them, not much has changed. They make fires the traditional way. Live in traditional huts made of mud and dung. The family compound is called a boma, surrounded by makeshift fences, protecting them from predators. More importantly for the Maasai, it protects their cattle.
So all this protection for the animals. No animal can come and cross in to go inside there, because those are like a tree, let's call acacia trees. So because they have thorns, so whatever such like a hyena or something go in there.
It's just one of the natural elements they have to protect against, because their lives center around the cattle herd. For the Maasai, it's a religious calling.
So those are young boys, you see them? Those are just getting more practical. Raise the cow themselves. And when they become about 15 years old, they know everything.
It was here we met Lazaro. He sees it as the Maasai's job not only to protect cattle, but protect the other wildlife in their midst.
The Maasai concept, because we not kill them. Even if someone kill them, we really feel more painful to see them, they kill the animals. But we don't have any way to stop because they can account for their own interest.
Is it important for people to help conserve?
Yes, of course. That's very, very, very important to have a concept this because give for the generation. So that's very important. Yeah, that's very important because give for our young generation to come later.
And for your kids, the next
kids until millions into million generation. So we concept that's a good one. We like it.
Conservation important not just to traditional pastoralists, but to modern farmers.
We have to take care of the nature, if not, they will take care of us. So it's really the way I see my life.
Outside of the Ngorongoro crater, you can find Wilbard Chambulo working on his land from sunrise to sunset. Organic farming, of which he's quite proud.
This is a cow. You can see. This is coming from the cow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the manure.
Manure, yeah, loose.
Smells like manure.
Smell pea, pea.
That's right.
Yes, you can see the difference of how healthy this is.
His lodges are self-sustaining, the food grown and raised right here. Like so many in Tanzania, Wilbard was born into poverty. As a safari guide, he saved enough money to buy a farm in 2000. Now,
we have at least 30 lodges and camps, 30. We have to feed 1,300 people a day, including my staff, maybe 2,000. Yeah. It's crazy.
with you, I mean, over the last 2 years, so many tourists weren't traveling. They weren't visiting.
Oh, disaster. You tell me that. In March, it was no tourist arriving, no plane coming, nothing. Can you imagine? We have to close all the lodges, all of them. We have to send 470 staff out of the work.
He sees conservation as the means to keep tourists coming. Protecting the land
Yes,
protects the animal.
yes. It is.
Animals are protected, the tourists come see it.
Yes.
The tourists come see it.
Comes in and cycle is going. So if more and more people can do that, or more and more tourists can come to bring the dollar, we can protect even more because there is the opportunity.
Opportunity for those like Baba Dingi.
The coffee berries, those who are not ripe enough, and they have less caffeine.
He travels 8 miles to give tours of the coffee crop.
So when Baba Dingi, I'm walking back home, I'm very happy. Looking for the red ones, not the green, not the yellow.
And occasionally performs for guests.
It is important for the future generation, you know, and to make sure our young generation, they will meet what we had before. Yeah, so that's why it is very important, and also it's good to keep the natural.
Conserving it, conserving the land, the animals, the wildlife. It's important for your way of life.
Yes, for me, yes. How many of 60 million people doing the same?
He sees it as a beneficial partnership, like the partnerships that are all around him.
All of the life on the planet is interconnected with the plants and all the other animals. So when we start to lose big segments of biodiversity, habitat, or species, that affects all of us, including the people.
A reliance, whether it's during migration or just daily life in Tanzania.
Yeah, my life is depend on it. So I depend on them, they depend on me. So it's like a symbiosis. It's like a symbiosis, yeah.
After the break, we travel across Lake Victoria to seek out those who live in the shadows of volcanoes. It's Wheels Up for Rwanda when we come back. The second part of our trip, we visited another organization supported by the Oklahoma City Zoo, this one in Rwanda, a country with a troubled past. It's the site of one of the world's most horrific genocides. Between 500 and 800,000 people were killed in 1994. But high in the mountains, 28 years prior to that, an American researcher dedicated her life to protecting gorillas. Her fight also led to her unsolved murder in 1985. Today, outside Volcanoes National Park, you'll find the center that now bears her name and those working to continue Dian Fossey's legacy. Kigali is the Rwandan capital and its largest city, with more than 1.1 million people. But 2 hours away, deep in the midst of the mountains, it's a different population that's concerning.
There are only 1,000 of them left on the planet, so they really need our help. But more importantly, maybe, is that we need them.
A need everyone with the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund hope to meet.
We are her original organization that she started.
Tara Stowinski is now the CEO and chief scientist for the organization.
Her original desk, when you look out on some of the pictures out there, you can see some of these elements.
The fund's new headquarters is now home to many of Fossey's possessions, and more importantly, her research on the Western Mountain Gorilla.
This is the world's longest running research study on gorillas, and that's something we do every day using a lot of the methodologies that Dian started.
But research is just part of the organization's 4 pillars. The others include teaching future conservationists and building communities, so they're not dependent on the gorilla's home.
The number one is daily protection. So we have boots on the ground in the forest 365 days a year.
don't know how to describe it.
Those boots are led by Felix Indajijimana.
Really makes us proud. We have a team of trackers who make up about 90% of our staff, and their job is to go in the park every day to see the gorillas, make sure everyone is healthy, make sure everyone is present in their group, and also to really look for snares and other traps.
Like most who work here, Felix was born in Rwanda.
When I was born, conservation of gorillas wasn't important. I remember that in my family, of course, my father and his friends would talk about gorillas. They would talk about, hunting in the park for bushmeat and how, this really affected the gorillas. But in terms of like conservation effort, what we see now wasn't present back in the day.
Those he grew up with used to question his place of work.
Everyone at that time joked about my job. They just didn't understand.
They don't question his work anymore. Maybe due in part to the results. Gorillas are no longer poached here. It's a turnaround the organization says it couldn't have done alone.
Our main partner is the government of Rwanda through the Rwanda Development Board, and they also operate in the park, and the government obviously is in charge of putting in place conservation policy that enable our work to happen.
Me, I have been here in the total 25 years, and before I did as a tracker for 5 years.
Fidel works for the Rwandan government.
Yes, yeah, like me, I'll stay till I will be retired. Yeah. Because I like my job.
So do these trackers, who keep tabs on gorilla families, including where they nest. Fidel and a team of porters then escort groups through the forest to find them.
I tracked several families, but this one I can come here like 4 times a month. In this family, I mean.
Some treks are just a couple of hours. Others are an entire day.
To make me strong.
Strong like the gorillas are strong, right?
The gorillas are stronger more than me.
Paths to get there made by buffalo. Or the blade. Paths followed until the family is in sight.
Maybe you can see some of them in the tree. You can see a gorilla?
Here, packs come off and masks go on. They share 98% of our DNA, but have not developed the same immunities. Cold can affect the population. A pandemic could destroy it. The grunts are a call of peace. If they're returned, the group is welcomed in.
You see, he's calling the other members come down near to him.
Families can be visited by one group once a day for 1 hour, also known as the golden hour. This family is called Kwitonda, or Humble One. It's named for the patriarch who migrated here in 2003. The silverback weighs in at close to 400 pounds. His main job is protection.
He's looking at that kind of the plant. After the baby throw out, it's coming down again.
But that won't be necessary today. Instead, he settles back for lunch. And eventually, a nap. Leaving mom in charge. That means it's time for bath. Juvenile gorillas are curious. curiosity is seemingly as boundless as their energy. Energy their older siblings often experience. And the little ones can often be reminded of their place every now and then. Most don't mind posing for the cameras. While there are those who prefer their privacy.
You said no, you had enough picture.
The biggest difference that you'll notice between these mountain gorillas and those you'll see at the Oklahoma City Zoo are a few different features and a lot more hair. The reason is because the mountain gorillas you'll see here in Rwanda are a different species. And this is the only species of great ape that's increasing.
A species that Diane Fossey thought would be extinct before the year 2000. We're seeing that when you make that kind of investment, when you're here for the long term, when communities are involved, that can turn the tide.
Involving communities by showing them why this population matters.
The potters, some of them before, they used to be like the potters. But after involved in tourism, we don't have any poaching problem. After some of them involved in tourism, we use them as umbrella, as the eyes, as the conservation of this park.
Both the government and Tara's team hope those outside the park will see that value too.
Our motto is helping people saving gorillas because we know ultimately for the gorillas to thrive, the people must thrive as well.
A motto Felix saw become successful in his own story.
It gives me a feeling of satisfaction to see that, my friends, my neighbors are not only supportive of the work that is happening for these conservation efforts, but to have that understanding, because back in the day it wasn't like that. I only wish that Dan would come back and see all this movement that she started, from a small tent in the park, how it has grown, and look at where we are now.
The mission is the same, protecting not only a species, but families like Kwitanda.
Like us, they form lifelong friendships, they mourn the loss of a family member, and they take care of their most vulnerable. And so they are certainly a species that deserves to have a place on this planet.
And here in Rwanda, deep in the midst of the mountains, they may have found a way. Despite great obstacles, it's a blueprint to follow. 55 years in the making. In addition to monetary support, the Oklahoma City Zoo also provides media training. It's a way to help the staff at the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund spread their message across the country and beyond. Conservation efforts of the Oklahoma City Zoo go beyond just African partnerships. They believe there's also a partnership with each and every person that walks through the gates. So, why do they believe this place matters for conservation there? We found out 8,800 miles away. Across the savanna of the Serengeti. Through the rainforests of Rwanda. The spirit of the wild still fascinates. Fascination that crosses culture and continent. Growing up in Arusha, Edie studied the nature around him. how the animals acted, and why.
I learned so many things and I was so interested. And after I was thinking which job I can do so as to be close to the nature. And I found to be a safari guide.
His childhood dream, the foundation of plans to come.
I'll need to own my own company and run my own business. Yeah, for future is what I'm thinking to do.
It's the future that's on the mind of Harry.
Very, very important to take care of the animals for the coming generations. Because, you know, even us now we are working, it means if we are not taking care of them, it means all will be gone. And for the coming generations, it's nothing to see.
It's the future that's on the minds of all those who have seen.
Has been and will be life-changing. I was a believer in conservation, and now I'm passionate about it, just after a few days.
50 years ago, animals just basically covered the Serengeti. And each year, they've been diminishing. And we've got to make sure that we keep this treasure for future generations.
Future generations of mankind and the wild that walk among them.
When I got to see baby elephants and so many of them, it was really important for me because I teach so often about the doom and gloom, and there was so much hope and positivity, and I got to be a part of that. Look what's happening. Look what you can visit if we just become good stewards for our environment. There's so much hope out there, and it made me really happy.
Hope springing from calf and cub. Hope for future generations of kids, like Dwight and Rebecca's daughter, Rory, on her second safari at 13.
It's comforting in a way to see that she cares about the world and the animals around her like we do.
It's got some yellow and kind of blue gray on its feet.
It's fun to see her be able to recognize animals, but also she'll know what they eat and how they live and how they take care of their young.
The Oklahoma City Zoo says feeding that spark is part of its mission, for kids and adults alike. For this group of Oklahomans, it mostly began the same way.
A little bit of that childlike fascination with something that you can't shake.
It just kind of captured me as a kid, and I just kind of kept that inside me.
When I was young, I used to watch all of the nature shows like National Geographic and Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and of course Jane Goodall was kind of my hero.
Yeah, for me, I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and I loved the animals there.
I think that young Erica wanted to live in The Lion King. And I think that it was probably something that I thought that the only way I'd live that would be to play it in my room. If you had told me, young Erica, that I would be on the ground in Africa experiencing this, I would have told her I was dreaming.
And that's part of the point to places like this.
Of course, we try to get them to care about the animals first, connect them with the animals, and then most people are, really interested in the animals, start to understand that the animals and us need the same sorts of things, and then from that, we can help them understand, okay, we're all sharing the planet together. When we connect people with the animals at the zoo, we want them to understand what's happening to their counterparts in the wild.
To understand what's happening on the savanna of the Serengeti, or the rainforests of Rwanda. What's happening in countries across the globe. Soon, you'll be able to see many of these animals for yourself when Expedition Africa opens here at the Oklahoma City Zoo. For more information, you can always head to news9.com. For Oklahoma's own News 9, I'm Colby Thielen. Thanks for joining us among the wild.